Let's start with education. Superintendent Huppenthal, the state of education, how can Arizona be a leader? How can Arizona be the education state, and what can business do to help?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to recognize that we have quite a number of schools in Arizona that are among the best in the nation. We have one of those schools represented right up here in the panel with Craig Barrett, chairman of the Basis schools. And when you take a look at those schools, their academic gains average 3 times the national average. So really a spectacular performance, clearly up in the top 1% of all the schools in the nation. And it's not just the Basis schools. We have quite a number of schools among our charter schools, but not just among the charter schools, but also among the district schools. And what we're seeing in Arizona is now a migration towards that excellence. We've created an environment of choice. So if you're an educated consumer in Arizona, essentially Arizona almost represents the best state you can be in, particularly if you're middle income or low income and you can't afford to live in that neighborhood. You can still, if you're willing to drive there, you can get to a great school. So we need to recognize those great schools. We need to energize them. And we're starting to do that with our labeling system to help parents, those who aren't as sophisticated, be able to make those choices. And we're seeing that happen already. In the last round of the National Assessment of Educational Progress, Arizona ranked 3rd in the nation in academic gains. Not academic performance, academic gains, the distance by which we're moving our students up. Our demographic challenge, the degree of poverty, the percentage of minority students coming out of poverty is among the most difficult in the nation. When you separate that challenge from the quality of our schools, we rank somewhere in the neighborhood of about 21st in school quality, and our students rank about 42nd in performance. That's a tough thing to get your arms around as a policymaker. In order for us to get into the top 10, our schools have to rank #1 by a chunk. So what we have to do is we have to spread that performance represented by the Basis schools, by those spectacular district schools across the whole state. School choice, competition, those type of things. But we also need to recognize that math and reading scores aren't enough. What we're clearly seeing is the traditional educational model doesn't work, particularly when people are so focused on 21st century skills, being all of the workplace skills, the cooperation, the collaboration, the teamwork, the multiplicity of skills, being able to work in technology environments, being able to work in business environments. All of those things have to be brought in. We were fortunate enough, Time magazine just featured Arizona in a 2-page spread on having to deal with career and technical education. We think that career and technical education is a vital piece of that whole project. They came in and featured a number of spectacular success stories in Arizona. Paradise Valley, who's driven their graduation rates to 94% using career and tech ed, not only having success in reading and the math area, but now these 21st century skills, making them a key part of the whole thing, bringing that all together, measuring the degree to which their students have a vision for their future and are actively taking action today to make that vision come true. So it's the whole package, having great schools, energizing those great schools, acknowledging the great leadership in those schools, moving out to this 21st century skills environment, and then propagating that across all of Arizona that we think is the answer to improving education in Arizona.
With that idea, with that as the answer to improving education in this state, anyone else, you hear that, what can business do to facilitate that improvement? Anyone?
Well, I'll take that. One of the models that we see out there that is just spectacular is the idea of not only at the college level, but all the way back at the high school level, students actively and being involved in internships within the business community. We think in a world-class education that that's going to be a key part of the equation, that you not isolate education from industry, and that students participate in that, they soak up that culture of what it's like to be in a high-performance environment, and then they bring that back to the educational community. There's a national success story of this. It's the Wegmans department store. It's all the way up in New York, but it's a spectacular success story. All of their executives came out of that program, and they're a spectacularly successful program The Yuma area is making it a model, and they're trying to develop this culture down there among the business community. We would like to take that model and move it out more broadly across all of Arizona, and we think that simply from the standpoint of business success, that everybody ought to be involved with this, both at the college level and the high school level.
You know, another thing that we've done is try to incent teachers. I'd love to see the best teachers come to the state, and I think that's where it all begins. We've tried to help teachers buy houses through different programs, and I think that's another way to help incent getting the right people in the education system.
You've got the biggest upgrade in the curriculum in not only in Arizona, but about every state in the union happening, something called Common Core, which is going to upgrade K through 12 in English, math, and then science. As we do that upgrade, it's going to be a shock to see how poorly our kids do when they get measured. And if the business community doesn't support that higher expectation level, then we're going to fail. So, you know, politicians sometimes don't have the greatest, stiffest spine in the world when public pressure comes. But when the public pressure comes that 50% of the kids do not pass because we've raised the expectations, the business community's going to have to come in and say, it's the right thing to do. You have to hold your ground. Stay with it.
Derrick.
Ted, yeah, I would agree as well about recruiting the best in class, obviously. And I serve on the board for Great Hearts Academy's charter, a very successful charter program. We've been able to, because of the curriculum and attracting them to the state of Arizona. But I also want to add that as business leaders, I think we have to understand the responsibility of getting involved with the educational system and trying to make an impact there. For example, knowing that there has been such a need financially with the cuts in programs, and certainly you feel it every day, Superintendent, we can do more. And you know, we've stepped up with our partners. For example, University of Phoenix, we collaborated with them to create a school challenge, $100,000 school challenge, where we now go into the schools and improve their situation, be it through new educational programs or physical needs at the school, or recreation or nutrition or IT. But I think that as business leaders, we can step up and do even more, especially at times of economic downturn where we need to help them out financially.